So we have to do the discussions, and I have in the studio Lawyer Mesa. And Lawyer Andrew Mesa is a member of Parliament for 2nd D. Thanks for joining me, Lawyer.
Sure.
Right. And I also know that I have in the studio my former boss, but also a former minister, deputy minister, and now member of Parliament for the Ododo constituency. I tell you, it's one of the hottest constituencies I've ever covered in my career as a journalist. He's heading there as the MP. How are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Ni Lanti van der Boy. Blessed and highly favored. Okay, so let's speak to the many issues, and we're talking about oil and gas, and the Vice President visiting China, etc. We'll also talk about the subject of the Supreme Court and the Gitmo case. We'll revisit two others. But let me start with you, Mesa. The Vice President has been traveling to China. How many hours is it to China? 17 hours?
I would think so, because typically, well, the times that I've been to China, I've had to do a transit.
You do some
Dubai,
7-8 hours to Dubai.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, good morning to your cherished viewers. Interesting trip. Of course, being a new government, it is expected that you would begin to leverage on your network, make friends across the nations, renew the country's relationships that have existed over the years, and seek to generate some investments, loans, aid, whatever that we need to enhance our development agenda into the country. Of course, we all know that Ghana has been engaged with the Chinese for a very long time. In fact, my dad, excuse me, was the first Ghana ambassador to China.
Your daddy?
Absolutely. So I know that Ghana has had a long-standing relationship with China, and the most recent past, the $3 billion loan that our brothers in the NDC sought to obtain from China, and subsequently the issues that came from there kind of lulled our relationship a little bit. So it was refreshing that His Excellency the Vice President has gone to China and has procured not a loan, not aid, not grants, but commitments to invest in our economy to the tune of about 19 billion, based on which some MOUs have been signed. We all know what MOUs mean. I know that my brothers will be quick. I'm saying this emphatically because I know them. They will quickly jump on the bandwagon of government having to go borrow $19 billion to fund our development agenda, when we had said that we're not going to add more to our debt stock. So that is why I want to preempt the kinds of things that he would say, because I know him very well. He's a very good friend of mine, my senior brother at that. So the whole idea is to leverage on our natural resources to obtain the requisite investment for our development agenda. And I think this is an innovative financing model that we should commend the government, particularly the Vice President and the economic management team of the government for such initiatives that aids in our development, but yet adds no debt to our stock.
I see. But we've been there before. I remember I've been to China before, and there's been this fanfare around whatever commitments we get from China, etc. That should be good news for us as a country, don't you think?
Thank you very much, Roland. And first, let me also say good morning to our cherished viewers. And let me take the opportunity to say Baraka de Salah to all my Muslim brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, and the community, especially His Eminence, the National Chief Imam, Dr. Sheikh Shaributu the Council of Muslim Chiefs and Ulama, my own chief, Seriki Kabiru English, and also Chief Sidiku Jimala. Yesterday was a good day in Accra. Almighty Allah spared us the rain in Accra Central, even though it rained in the other parts of Accra. Accra Central, we did not have rain. The weather became very good, and we had an excellent celebration deep into the night. I left the area close to 1 a.m. yesterday, and it was good. So I want to say congratulations to all my Muslim brothers and sisters in the constituency and wherever they are in this country. I believe throughout the country it was good. And I know the celebration will continue today. As we said, I know Tamale and the environs, they do it
The
day after, and they enjoy it a
You
lot.
actually do it 2 days in a
Actually,
row.
today is the day people are going to eat.
Mm.
You know, yesterday was prayers.
Today all the public service offices will
Yes,
be.
so I'm just waiting after this program to see whether I can catch my rice first. But on the issue, first I want to say congratulations to the Vice President and the team that went to China, and to say that they brought good news. I'm praying and hoping that it will come to pass. Because as we said, I was in that team that also went to China.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was in that team that went to China. And we came back. Even though we had some of the commitments into certain areas, like the gas plant, like some of the landing beaches and things. You know, events later made it almost impossible for negotiation. In fact, the government even did well by setting up a whole desk. Dr. Markwe, Kadma Mills, and the rest, keeping a relationship and a network with all these commitments, Chinese institutions and also businesses to make sure that it comes to fruition. But like Atufosin said, this should not give cause for overexcitement, because even the processes that Chinese agreements go through before these things are seen takes almost about 2 years. So I will be asking that as a media person, I know what the spirit of frustration is. If you heighten expectation so much, and within 6 months, 1 year, nothing comes up, it turns to frustration. People become frustrated and become disappointed. So I wish that we don't repeat the mistake of Sheikh Isaac Kwe when he stood there and said that Shika Dae, you know. So that is what I will be expecting. I thought this one will be, so that when the things start materializing, then you can make so much noise about it. But I understand it is politics. But there's one thing, I'm happy my brother said it's commitments. Commitments from various Chinese institutions, businesses, to say, I will want to go into this area, and this is how much I will commit. I want to go into this area. I want to go to railways. I want to go into this. This is what I will commit. All those commitments will come. MOUs are signed. MOUs are signed almost every day in every department and agency. If you're in government, you know that MOUs are signed almost every hour. But the MOUs are one thing, and coming to reality, the whole conclusion of the MOU also another thing. But one thing I heard the Vice President talk about, and that is a danger for me, and lawyer has just re-echoed that they will be leveraging our natural resources. I heard the Vice President talk about we having 450 billion stock of bauxite in the ground. And so what will 20 billion do if you are going to use it to get 450 billion? How did the Vice President quantify the bauxite we have on the ground? And what are the agreements that will be done so we know we are having value for money? 2, have you thought about the cost of environmental degradation that will come up as a result of the exploitation of these minerals? And when you quantify those environmental degradation, add it to the cost of the borrowing, don't you think we'll be going beyond the 450 billion? So these are things that we need to critically look at before we make conclusive statements on this issue. I'm careful not to, because if this materializes, it's good for all of us. If tomorrow 14, even 1 billion of this money comes, it's good. It's going to be injected into the Ghana's economy. Whatever area it goes into, Ghanaians will benefit, and I'll be all for it. I'll clap for the government. I'll congratulate them. But I'm saying that the way he has already started talking about what sort of minerals and what sort of resources will be virtually mortgaging for this 20 billion or so is too risky for our economy and the future of this country. It's too risky.
But nobody has suggested any mortgaging of our resources as security for this commitments that were proposed.
But that's what he said.
What
that's the inference of the Vice President's
not
statement.
at all. You are seeking to, I don't want to say be mischievous with the information. What the Vice President said was that, look, this is a country that has so much natural resources sitting in the ground for which we can procure investments to exploit, process up to the tune of 20 billion. Okay? And that is the rationale for our indicating to the Chinese that, look, this is a country that is worth doing business with and making investments into. And with that kind of money, we can build our railways, we can build our bridges, we can build our infrastructure, we can build our industries, we can build factories that will generate employment for our people right here in this country, and then provide exports to the Chinese for whatever purposes that this is intended for. Look, and let me correct some wrong impression that me sought to portray. This is not the same as the framework agreement that they went to sign with China. It's completely different. That was a loan that they procured with several components therein. And so put together, they called it a framework agreement that was submitted to Parliament and was subsequently approved. They were unable to meet the conditions precedent for the release of the funds, except the 1 million that came to do the Atuabo gas processing plant. So let's not equate these two events at all. They are completely different.
Okay. Now,
Roland, if you're talking about private, you're talking about even Chinese loan. You don't, if you know how the Chinese government works in the financial market, there is no facility that is given even to private companies without state guarantee. Because the Chinese state, all these companies actually belong to a Chinese state. So all the companies, when they enter into any private invest, unless it's a private businessman coming to invest, but once it's an organization, it's an industry in China, it has a government backing, and whatever facility they are giving out to the China Exim Bank should have a state guarantee. And once you take a state guarantee, it's a loan to government indirectly.
Yes,
because
assuming the private liability.
Yes, so I don't want to. You see, mind these things that I don't want to play politics with this. I don't play politics with certain things. The issue is that let's all pray that this will come. But I'm saying that we should be careful not to over-excite the people, so that when these things do not materialize, it becomes another.
Well, you're afraid if they overexcited the people,
No,
it's to the advantage.
Ghana is not the only country we've experienced this. It happened in Angola, it happened in Benin, it happened even in Nigeria. It has happened. It happened in Mozambique with the Chinese people on these agreements and things. It has happened. So across Africa, it's happened in so many areas.
The situations are completely different.
Well,
circumstances are different.
I hope so.
In the nature of the agreements clearly are different.
I can see you are very.
This is something that we need to celebrate as a people, and commend the government for this bold initiative.
I didn't even say the joy and the.
So the Vice President is quoted verbatim by the Finder, and it says, Ghana's bauxite reserves could alone earn the country about $460 billion at current prices. And our case is that if we need just $20 billion to do a major massive Marshall Plan, and we have $460 billion sitting in the ground, what we really need is to develop a financing model that utilizes a small fraction of those reserves to finance infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Okay. So They come for your mineral and they give you this.
No, not at all. He didn't say that we are going to use this to secure the 20 billion investments that are coming in. Bear in mind that it's not a loan. Okay?
Where?
There is
The
no
Chinese
loan.
facility.
Wait,
There's
wait.
no money. If they give even
Look,
you,
that's why he
you will
said
need a state guarantee.
new financing models. Okay? That why don't you invest 20 billion cedis, if you like, in our bauxite industry, so that arising out of that, we can build our bridges, we can build our railway line, we can build our infrastructure that we need for a country that is clearly developing. Okay, he's not saying that bring us a loan of 20 billion, because that's not the import of the commitments that were reached with the Chinese.
But let's look at China's relationship with Africa. It's now seemed to have reached a certain crescendo. For example, in Ethiopia, they just launched the first speed rail on the continent. Yeah. They've made great investment in many countries on the continent. It also means that relationship, if harnessed positively, could have positive repercussions for many economies, and Ghana should take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
No matter
absolutely, because that could be clearly the West is seeking to focus less and less on Africa, and the Chinese have seen the potential that exists, and they are in to do business, and so they are making more and more investments, as opposed to the West that we have always had a traditional relationship with. Because if you look at the quantum of investment that is coming from the Americas and the European countries into Africa, it pales into insignificance the kinds of investment that the Chinese is making. And I think that it's their investment choices. We've heard the President of the United States clearly seeking to look within. America first, make America great again. And I think it's an opportunity that clearly they are losing out, and they will be the greatest losers over time.
Okay, but let's watch the Vice President, and then when we come, we'll have Nilante van der Poel also make his comments on the subject. And we'll ask some critical questions as well.
The People's Republic of China and the China's state and private sector enterprises have together committed to support the economic transformation agenda of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So far, the commitments that we received in China before leaving amounted to a total of $15 billion US. And there is a possibility that within the next month or so, there are some discussions that we couldn't conclude, that another $4 billion will be added to that.
My question is, you mentioned a lot of goodies that is coming from China. How would you say is the stringence of, strings attached to this whole $2 billion facility?
Of course, for any partnership, we presented the case that whatever investment China makes in Ghana, it's a good thing for them as it is for us. It's a win-win situation. Nobody goes to invest in another country saying that they want to lose. And the whole structuring of the financing model is a joint venture structuring. So if the enterprise is good, it will benefit everybody. So it's not one that says these are the strings attached in A, B, C, D.
Eh?
I made a comment. I don't even see it on the face of the vice president himself.
You're reading his emotions.
Yes,
now.
yes. But you know that my background.
No, I know.
Your expression should be able
to
sync with what we are saying.
He's
and
not
I
confident.
No. He's not. I could see even from the face of Ken Ofori-Atta himself too. He's actually overwhelmed.
I told you that he always tries to play mischief.
Oh. Did you see it yourself?
No, but what you expect him to go jumping and shouting and celebrating and jubilating?
Ken was in
a serious man at work.
You know.
Yes, Ken.
The title of the new movie.
Ken was not sitting at the place. He was somewhere else. So he's saying in his mind, but
But the truth
But-
is
but,
that
yeah.
China don't come free.
Yeah, that is where I'm coming from.
They don't come free.
You mentioned Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Go outside Addis, and you will see the devastation of the environment. I'm telling you. Recently,
I've
recently
seen
you
some
had-
think tank channels.
Yeah.
And they've never done good to the Chinese government at
It's the
all.
same thing in Angola, to the extent that even the populace rose up the same way we today are. All of us as a country, we advocating for, the need to stop this environmental degradation through galamsey operation. I won't say the Chinese are the only people doing galamsey in Ghana. In Ethiopia, the same. They started with the same partnership in the bamboo production and supply to China for wood products, and then moved to issue of mining. And it's unimaginable. But the Ethiopians, unlike Ghana, have not taken a decisive step within Addis, because you'll be seeing the bridges, the new roads, the railway line, everything, which they haven't seen before. The energy and all, they haven't seen before. And all of it will come out. So you temporarily to forget about the effect of what you are getting. And then when it dawns on you that, oh, what I've given out is not of the same value as what I've gotten. Yes, infrastructure has been built, but what has happened to me? Then the agitation starts. Recently, there were agitations in Addis Ababa over this issue. So I'm saying that the vice president could be coy in saying that there are no strings attached, but there is no Chinese facility without strings.
But we know that what they did when they closed their doors for 20 years or for all those years, making sure that they made incursions into the American equity market, buying the reserves, etc. Now, China is feared around the world.
Absolutely.
And Africa is a fertile ground in the geopolitics and the economics of the world. Africa is a fertile market that also doesn't have the barriers as far as the expertise, the regulations, and the clout. Doesn't it make us a lot more vulnerable, particularly Ghana, when it comes to trying to put the brakes on how fast they're coming?
I don't think so. I mean, it all depends on the kinds of regulations that we put in and the extent to which we are prepared to enforce. I always say that it beats my imagination how we have clearly unemployment situation in our country. Yet, we don't have personnel to enforce our laws. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. You know, this Galamsey menace that we have all complained about, me and his government presided over it for the past 8 years and did practically nothing about it. Yet, we have young people in this country who have no jobs, who could easily be engaged to police the enforcement of our laws in, well, that's my thinking. You know, I may be wrong, but we've always complained. If you go to the minerals, mining, what's their name?
The Minerals Commission?
Yes, and the agency that is intended to police the environment and all that. They complain. They don't have personnel. They don't have personnel.
Forestry Commission?
Absolutely, they don't have personnel. Yet we have a lot of unemployment in this country. So what are we doing to ourselves as a people? I think we should begin the national conversation to determine whether we want to, based on some conditionalities that we've imposed on ourselves, based on some rule that prevents us from engaging public sector personnel, or whether we want to realign our public sector and recruit personnel into the right institutions where they are needed to ensure the enforcement of our rules. And like I said, we've clearly learned from the Ethiopian experience. We've learned from the Angolan experience. And it should guide us in whatever engagement that we have with the Chinese, so that the brakes that needs to be put in place, best practice in dealing with them to ensure that our environment doesn't suffer the same fate as the other countries that we just cited on this program.
You know, Roland, before you leave this topic, let me just tell Mesa that our people put in more effort than what Amewo is putting in. You know, Sapon virtually leading task force in the central region, Dunkwa area, and all the seizing equipment.
Obviously,
and all those
he
things.
didn't do it well.
Some of the key people involved in the Galamsey are their political apparatus.
So why didn't you arrest them? You were in government.
Your political apparatus.
So why didn't you arrest them?
There is a case I had to come in as a deputy minister of local government in the western region, where he comes from. Is it Amenfi Central, where equipment and Galamsey, someone mining in the river, was seized. He went to court, and the judge said that the machine and things should be given to the person. The DC refused. The DC was charged for contempt. I had to get lawyers from Accra to go and represent the DC, because as a DC assembly, they could not have the resources to get a lawyers to. I agree with you, but I'm saying that if you want to really enforce this issue of Galamsey, start from your party people. They are the people, the majority, 90% of people who are involved with Galamsey are your party people. So start from them.
Okay.
In fact, some of them are kingpins of your party.
Okay,
they are kingmakers in your party.
The way you're doing Lawyer Mesa this morning is okay. And the way Lawyer
No,
Mesa
I'm just amazed that.
Now let's talk about this. I'm sure this one will be good news for Lawyer Mesa. Yeah. There's a story on my Joe Online which is saying that a former chief of Sanana Atozaji says NDC lost the 2016 elections because appointees of former President John Mahama failed him. Now we know that we've had the Professor Kwesi Botwe-led committee bringing out a report. Even though we've had summaries of that report only being given to us, we don't know, because somehow it will be leaked to the media subsequently, because people will be contesting for positions of flag bearer and national executive positions, etc. Things will come to the media. No, that you don't want to tell us, we will know. But the truth is that Nanato Datsi, a former chief of staff, said a former president surrounded himself with people like you. So that's how come he failed. You're a former government appointee, aren't you?
First, let me say, yes.
You helped
If
him
a team loses a match, they blame the coach. The same players that Jose Mourinho was using at Chelsea that performed poorly and he was sacked. Conte used the same team, and Chelsea won the league.
The next season.
So yes, it's the same. When MPP lost the elections, part of the analysis, especially
focus
if you read Dr. Atakenedy's book,
which one? You wrote two.
Chasing the elephant into the bush. He mentioned and catalogued issues that pertain to appointees. It's the same. The president is an individual, and as such, he appoints people to work for him. So I will accept responsibility, because I thought we have one president who did very well in this country.
Who for?
GM. GM did marvelously well as a president within that short period. So if somebody is saying that he was led,
quadrupled our debt with it.
Well, you are within 6 months, you've added almost 1/3 of what was there.
That's a palpable falsehood.
Well,
we just
let's not go into that one.
15 billion.
Then you that's why you see,
so if 8 years,
I clearly at the beginning of my submission drew a clear distinction that this was not a loan, because I knew he was going to go there.
Have you added the 2.5?
You know, he's my church member.
Have you added 2.5?
It's okay.
2.5 of what?
You know, he's my church member.
To refinance your debt.
Oh, as for that one,
was to refinance the debt that you took without adding a cent to the stock.
We took money to refinance the debt you got from TOR.
So let's focus on the issues, and you move the country's debt from 9 billion to how much?
Let me make the point.
In excess of 100.
I'm saying that when you within 6 months we are around 15.
That's not true.
Okay.
And you know it.
So I agree perfectly. Well, I contributed to the defeat. Each one of us.
Which position were you holding?
Oh, I was a minister, so I'm an appointee. So if somebody said appointees let Mahama down, I accept. We let him down, because he's the finest person as a president. He's always thinking about how to move this country forward. And so if he lost the elections, then the players who were supposed to play their positions well for him to be successful, we didn't. and accept collective responsibility. We all humbly have accepted it, and we are going to correct our mistakes and come back in 2020. Simple. There's no one person who will say, I did my work so well. That is the others who let the president down. All of us let him down. President Mama did not fail this country. I accept responsibility. We failed him. Because as a leader, I can tell you, he was so conscious of the objectives that we set for ourselves, the vision he had for this country. But it takes people to move a vision. And when the people are not walking the pace of the leader, it's possible that this will happen. Nana Atudazi may not have seen the report. So he is coming from his opinion.
Are you serious?
Definitely. There's no way he can say he's not a member of the committee. I have seen the report.
No.
Because I'm a member of the committee.
I understand what you're saying, but he's a senior member of your
Yeah,
committee.
so I'm saying that
he hasn't seen the report.
He has not. Nobody, apart from the 13-member committee, has seen the report.
You can bet on that.
I can bet on that. The National Executive...
But you submitted it to the National Executive.
We gave them the report and executive summary. The National Executive as a group have not sat down to look at the report. It's under lock and key. But the executive summary is what we are looking...
Where did you buy the safe? From Game?
Well, I won't say it. Mesa is here.
All right.
They have a very nice way of infiltrating people's privacy.
It will come out.
It will not.
It's only a matter of time. He knows it.
It will not. What we are going to do is to farm out the recommendations and the conclusions.
Do what?
We will farm out the recommendations and the conclusions and work with it so that we can improve, rebuild, restructure, and come in a better, much more stronger position for 2020. And the mistakes we've committed, I say it will never happen again. I am very optimistic. Nana Atudazi is my father, and I'm very sure that with his experience, there are certain things that were not done during their time. And this time, because dynamics have changed, we may have taken those things for granted and may have done them. I remember very well one particular line the ex-president, the founder, made in Cape Coast, that you are making a mistake. You are playing to the MPP's game. They don't change. This is their style. Don't adopt their style. Play your own game. And to some extent, I agree. There are a lot of things that we did that sounded like the MPP in 2008.
Like?
All the flamboyance of some of our campaigns, rallies, and also concentrating a bit much more on rallies instead of one-on-one campaigning, which I think is more effective. Because if all of us, 20 of us, all should move into a market, and we are talking to one another, we are talking to people, it will make more effect to me. Because most of the time, rallies is your supporters who come and listen to you. Only a few people who are not your fanatical supporters will come listen to you.
Did you make all these concerns known when you were appointed? Or you're just following the bandwagon?
You see, it's division of labor. In 2008, I can say, with the position, the role I was playing, I could have a direct impact and direct intrusion into whatever programs and things that are proposed. But this time I was a parliamentary candidate. So when you are a parliamentary candidate, you tend to focus a little bit more on your and in your constituency than the larger national picture. You could make input, but as to making sure that those inputs you make are adhered to and carried through is limited. Your ability to penetrate that is limited because you are almost every day. And for example, I was almost every day in my constituency because at the time I felt threatened. Almost the whole hierarchy of the MPP were in my constituency, were in my backyard, you know, plundering, you know, full armor.
So you had to go
yeah,
house to house.
So I have to work harder than I had anticipated I would do. The intention was to at least concentrate a little bit and also help even other orphan constituencies which I have influence. But I couldn't at the last minute, I couldn't. It's the same. So for example, I don't think Mesa in 2020 will say that Secondary is so safe for him, so he want to leave Secondary and go and support another constituency. You understand? if he's also a candidate, it will be difficult for him, as he's campaigning and focusing on his constituency, also to be looking at the national elections as well. So there's limitations here and there, and I agree perfectly. And so I'm saying that we have learned our mistakes, and I'm happy that people are happy. But they themselves, who won elections, they set up a committee to find out how they won, because they were not too sure they could win elections. They set up a committee to find out how.
Who goes into election thinking that they will not win? I think
I'm telling you, he knew he was going to win, but even he wasn't too sure. He would have slept.
Oh, wow.
We gave him some small fish, and even that one he struggled.
You are sure I struggled?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you know for a fact that I did not struggle at
But
all.
at the end of the day, we know that political parties, and you, the two parties, the NPP and NDC, in the Fourth Republic have shown that you are the forces to be reckoned with. At the end of the day, there are lessons always at the end of each electoral defeat that both of you learn from.
Yeah.
How do you see from where you stand in the NPP, or where you are doing the analysis from the opposing side, thinking that this could also play in your hands?
Well, of course. I mean, there are always pros and cons to every electoral victory or defeat. And so to that extent, it's useful to draw lessons from their experience. Of course, draw lessons from our previous performance in general elections as well, to guide our steps going forward. I believe it is in that spirit that the party itself, even though we won the election, has deemed it necessary to, as it were, set up a committee to evaluate our performance in the election with a view to consolidating our strengths and taking advantage of the weaknesses of the NDC and to put us in proper stead for 2020. Having said that, this Mr. Nana Atuda's statement, it was interesting how he himself in his presentation clearly demonstrated the inconsistencies within their fold. In one breath, he cited Mourinho, Conte having used one team, and the fact that wherever and whenever a team loses or performs abysmally, it is the coach who takes the blame. And so Mourinho had to be sacked for Conte to come and perform with the same team. Mm-hmm. Yet, in their case, he praises the coach, which was the president, and blames the team for the players for performing abysmally. If he was such an excellent coach, was it not within his right to fire the people who were clearly on the verge of causing his defeat? Was he not? What did we see? The excellent coach sat.
This one is the Ghanaians who have the power
reneged
to fire.
on his powers
of
appointing and disappointing. He has the power
he hasn't got
to appoint
Ghanaians
anybody
have power
into
to
his
fire.
government.
And the Ghanaians fired him.
So don't paint a picture as if the coach,
Ghanaians fired
the coach
him.
is an excellent coach, because clearly from the analogy that you yourself put across, he was an excellent coach after all.
You are looking at one leg of the analogy. Look at the general picture of the analogy.
Your own words.
I'm saying in this particular instance,
the coach was excellent, but the players were not good.
Look, I said Ghanaians.
We're speaking
Ghanaians
NDC
decided
specific.
that
in the general election, yes.
So
but
the players let the coach down.
With respect to the story that is in the news relating to what led to the defeat of the NDC.
Which news?
Mr. Daz's statement.
Okay.
That the appointees
yes.
caused the electoral defeat of the NDC. And you premised your statement by saying that in every team, when the team performs abysmally, it is the coach who picks the blame. Mm-hmm. So I would have expected that you would have attributed the blame to your coach and contradicted Mr. Dazi.
Listen what he said. What he said really, listen to it first.
I don't have a problem with the statement. Your own words.
So I'm saying that I'm relating what he said to what I.
So you see, of course, I mean, everybody has his own view as to what led to the NDC's defeat in the election.
And what led to your victory?
The founder has said his bit. The former president himself has said his bit. The secret document that he says nobody will have access to contains its bit. And Mr. Dazi has his view as well. I tend to think that there was a multiplicity of factors that led to their electoral defeat. Mainly the corruption that was perceived to permeate the fabric of the government.
So you said perceived?
Yeah, of course. Because you see, you should know the kind of work that I do and the need for me to choose words carefully. Okay? Look, perception is always grounded on something. Okay? And the quantum of rot that we read about, the excessive soul sourcing of
from your political tabloids, like the
excessive soul sourcing were from political.
What is wrong with soul sourcing? But you just did soul sourcing.
I said
excessive. You just did soul sourcing in 2.5 billion. This thing.
You see, I don't know what your fixation on this 2.5 billion.
Me and you are in parliament.
Yes.
Me and you are in parliament. Kenneth Writer came to tell us it was a soul sourcing.
He said so.
But when he narrated, what did he say?
What related to the soul sourcing? I was there in the chamber.
And what he said, the narration, what picture did they pay to you?
What
was
narration
there an OP tender? Was there people?
But this was advertised.
Oh,
for
Jesus Christ. You see, I don't know what their fixation. I don't know what their fixation.
One day,
was there
2 hours.
Listen.
I don't know what their fixation on the 2.5 billion is, but clearly.
Because the bond is not advertising Ghanaian papers.
Clearly,
2 hours.
The ability of the finance minister to find a way when they had consistently preached that there is no way is what baffles them.
Find a way.
It's the baffling.
Can we come back to this?
Because there's nothing to the 2.5 billion.
Okay.
After your half-hour motion, what else has happened? Because there's no issue.
We are still at the stock exchange.
You are still at which stock exchange? Oh, the
Securities
Exchange. The United States.
Can we go on?
So yes, I mean, back to the subject. I mean, so his views, I think from where he sits, clearly, I would have been charitable to the government and said that some of the appointees, because there were excellent personnel in there,
like him.
You can't see that all of them were, if you like, incompetent. But
so they were not bad after all.
I said some. We can. Said some. We can. I said some.